Okay. Yay. So part two.
Part two, yeah.
I rewatched the video from part one, and I'm like, I think I talked really fast, so I could try and cram everything into 45 minutes or whatever. And so this time we can go a little slower. There's a couple things that I didn't kind of present on last time, and then there were a couple of questions come up, but I know you all sent me questions, so hopefully we'll have a little more time to have some dialogue. I realized last time talking about polyamory, we talked a lot about problems, right? We're therapists, we're trying to help people solve problems. We never even talked about the benefits, like why people would actually do this, what draws them to it. And I realized that so much when there is conflict in a polycule, regrounding in why are we doing this? Why, that it's about love, that it's about abundance, that it's about creating as much happiness as we can, often gets lost in just the processing of drama that also comes up. And so I guess I just wanted to start with that polyamory is many loves, a lot of love. So just remembering that that's why people are doing it. They want abundance. They want expression. I mean, there's also those other kind of human needs that get met, like wanting variety and wanting novelty and just wanting a full life experience, or self-expression, or there's all sorts of reasons. I mean, I'm sure as you've all worked with polyamorous people, yeah. So I'm sure everyone comes in with a slightly different reason, but usually it's like, I just have a lot of love to give and I need as many people as possible. Oh, that makes me think about something I didn't add to my list. This as many people as possible. And thinking about, someone wanted to talk more about polyadolescence. Was that you?
It was Ariel.
Yeah. Someone asked the question off camera the last talk. But the idea of a lot of people when they get started in polyamory just want everything right now all the time and can easily stretch themselves really thin and take on too many relationships and too many commitments until all of a sudden they're in too deep and everything is failing. None of their relationships feel satisfying anymore. So, gosh, where do we even start? Let me start with a few, just reiterating kind of what you all brought me and some topics I thought of, and then we can get as a group. I wanted to talk a little bit more maybe about jealousy and insecurity, because that's something most poly, transitioning to, or even I am poly, but I'm struggling with this, come in for. Some of the underlying sexism and power dynamics that can play out in relationships or in community at large. Talking about how important community is for finding safety and building personal identity, as it is for many minority groups. Talking a little more maybe about how attachment traumas or emotional dysregulation, if people have that in their daily life and then try and be poly, how this can really be button pushing and how to work with that. Just some family system stuff, triangulation, coalition, scapegoating, and some of the things that happen in families also happen when you start to get more than two people relating. Let's see, the particularly difficulties of establishing agreements and boundaries, creating safety in a couple, but then how that affects other partners, secondary partners. And so what's happening for secondaries, especially when they start to really bond with someone and want to be more of a primary, and how that can work. Ethics. As you start to talk about safer sex, as we talk about being fluid bonded, as we start to talk about time and commitment and resources, like how do people kind of think about this ethically? And then walking that middle path of personal responsibility and concerns for partners. So it's not, I can just do anything I want. I have to take my partners into consideration. And all of a sudden there's more people to take into consideration and more feelings to be managed. So that can get a little more difficult. A lot of two people relationships, codependency works super well. Add more people, it doesn't work so well. So finding that balance. But then the questions you all asked me were relationship escalator, common steps in formation of poly relationships, polyadolescence, clinical support around boundary and rule, I'll say agreement creation, and then how monogamous couples can approach their partner without destroying the relationship. So how it sounds like opening up a monogamous relationship without blowing things up. And then I had case studies I could provide too. But okay, that's a lot of info.
That is a lot of topics.
Right, so I could still talk
It's
about
like a
5
6-hour lecture.
Yeah, it's the whole day workshop.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm struggling with, I had a couple, because there's the identity, right, the label polyamorous.
Right.
And the word love is in it. And so I've been trained to reflect what anyone identifies as, right? Like whatever they want to be identified with, that's what I say too, right? And so what I've been struggling with lately is with one client a while ago who the female in the relationship, she wanted to have romantic relationships, and the male in the couple wanted to just have sex. And so, but he identified as polyamorous. So I'm just not clear, is it open relationship? Is like, do I get, like, how do I create space for,
Yes.
do you know what I mean?
I do. Actually, that was another one. Actually, I missed this one, which is so funny. I'm like, different definitions of poly and expectation cause conflict. But there's a great article called Polyamory versus Polyfuckery. And so this is like a hot topic debate within the community where I've even heard, like, at community round table discussions, someone's calling themselves poly and describing their relationships, and they're talking about having sex with multiple people, and then someone in there is like, that's called polysexual, you're not polyamorous. I'm like, whoa, dude, you don't get to define for someone else, their idea, because it's also evolving, right? So, but I'm going to draw a picture in there.
Okay. Sure. Do you want like an actual thing to draw?
Sure. It's a very simple Venn diagram. Thank you. Okay. This is the basics of what constitutes a relationship for most people. We have love and emotional intimacy, we have sex, we have romance, spending time together, companionship, and we have commitment over time. And like in the world of monogamy, we're looking to find someone who will meet all of those things at all times in the perfect, proportions. There's an idea within polyamory that people can want different of these in different combinations with different people, and that's okay. So the idea is these are all separate things. We've kind of conflated them, especially love and commitment. Like if I love someone, that means I must be with them forever, if I have loving feelings. Not so. And it's this kind of expectation that gets caught in people's brains, and they're very upset, like, well, I think you're going so well, like, why aren't we together now? Did you both agree on commitment over time, even if there's intense feelings? Or did you agree on commitment over time if you're gonna have sex? Sometimes if it's just sex, like casual sex is not a thing, so people, okay, it's a one night stand, I'm okay with that. But then sex and love get confused for a lot of people. Sex and intimacy. So it's helpful to see all these components as different. So to your question, identity-wise, it's nice to let people identify, of course, however they want to, and pull out this chart and go, oh, so it looks like for you, partner A, it's being with other people, you want this emotional intimacy and some of this romance. You know, sex is important, but it's like you want love and romance and maybe some sex. Like, we only need this much sex, or maybe, I guess, here. You know, where do they intersect and how much do you need?
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah. And then, because other people have different ideas, and this is really common, in especially,
show this to the screen.
yeah, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Running backwards on the screen.
But this is where a lot of contention can come up in relationships especially if people are monogamous and then trying to recreate. Because for some people, okay, let's get gendered for a second. I don't necessarily agree with this, but typically speaking, men are more okay with casual sex. Women want intimacy. Like when people are cheating, that's what freaks people out more. I don't know if that's true, but it's what I read somewhere at some point. So one person's like, yes, let's just do sex. And that's what they want. And the other person wants emotions. I don't know, were people having certain feelings about whether emotions could be involved or not? Yeah.
Partner A, the male,
didn't want emotions involved.
he didn't want his partner to have any emotions with these dates. And so they weren't on the same page about what polyamory looked like for them.
And how did the partner feel? How did his partner feel? Was it a heterosexual couple?
Heterosexual couple. He has a fear of losing her, and she's coming into her own. And he used to be everything for her, and now she's filling those circles with other partners.
Right.
So that's really scary.
Sure.
For him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want someone else emotionally. He doesn't want, you know.
And he worries that if she is connected emotionally to someone else, she's going to leave him.
Yeah, because that's like his dominant narrative.
Right.
So he will be abandoned.
Right. Which, I mean, there's multiple layers to that. One is, in monogamy, your partner's supposed to be your everything. I think in polyamory, people have taken a real pragmatic approach of like, they can be most things, but they can't be all things. And so there's just kind of an acceptance of like, I love you and you meet a lot of my needs, but you can't meet every single need. And it's nothing about your worth as a person. It's just the way things are. But a lot of people do take it as, I'm not enough, why aren't I good enough, why does my partner want someone else? So really working with separating that's just reality, the fact of like you can't be two and separating it out. But then too, I'm thinking about, it's easy to get codependent in a two-person relationship. I'm gonna meet all your needs and that's my job, and then if someone takes my job, you know, right. So then, but then, like anyone who's been, and I don't even wanna call them codependent in the classic sense, but just, you know, there's this idea that my personal identity is subsumed in the relationship. How do I start to differentiate, and I've got a me and an us again? And okay, now there's someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
And not only with this couple, but an individual I'm seeing, they agree to being poly in fear of losing their partner.
That sort of
Yes.
circles to the question that I had put on the list, which is how do you open up a monogamous relationship when one person is kind of leading the way. I think that I've seen a lot of clients who have been on the, for lack of a better phrase, receiving end of that conversation, where their partner comes to them and says, I want to open up the relationship, and there are all kinds of feelings that come up around that. There's fear of loss, there's insecurity. For a lot of people, there's also this sense of like, why am I not evolved enough to be on board with this? Like, what's wrong with me? And for probably the first time I have a client who's sort of on the other end of that, who's like, I know that I'm not a monogamous person. I'm in this monogamous relationship. And I think that my partner would freak out and or leave if I went to her and told her all of this. How do I approach that in a way that's like sensitive and careful, but also gets my needs met?
Right.
So I think it's just such a tenuous situation.
It is. It's like, I mean, in that situation, so much care and so much patience. Because a lot of times for the person who's polyamorous and realizing this and then needs to tell their partner, has thought about it a lot, has probably done their research, has kind of made that internal shift, and meanwhile their partner is in the dark. So it comes totally out of the blue, totally as a surprise. What? You're changing the rules on me? So to be expected that the person is going to freak out, no matter how gentle, how calm, how loving, just be ready for a freak out on some level. Because in a way, and be ready for the stages of grief.
Yeah.
It's a big loss. Wow, you don't want to be monogamous anymore. My whole vision of our life is gone now. It's almost like there's a sense of betrayal. Not that it's an infidelity, but in a way, it's like, it is like an infidelity. It's a moment of identity crisis for the couple. And like infidelity, I don't even want to say it about infidelity. It could be any major change in identity, where it's like, okay, something has changed for you, which means it's changing for us.
Yeah.
And the other person needs to catch up. And it's a tricky balance because the person who is like being blindsided with this information definitely needs a lot of holding and care. And the person who's telling them, the polyamorous person, it's helpful for them to just put their needs on the back burner and not push for a while until this person can kind of go through their grief and the insecurity. Then when it's like, I'm still here, I still love you, I still want to make our relationship work, and there's this part of me that needs to be expressed. Can we work with this? Sometimes no.
I mean, if the answer is no, at that point, does it make sense to work with the polyamorous person to kind of do almost like a values assessment? Like, okay, if this is a deal breaker, what's my decision? Am I staying in this relationship and being monogamous, or am I leaving this relationship and being poly?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to me, any crisis of a relationship like this is an opportunity for couples and individuals to go back and reevaluate. It is always amazing to me how many couples get married without the big conversations of, do we want kids? What are our finances going to look like? Do our sex drives match and our sexual needs match? Like, they just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And I often see at year 5 or 7, just even polyamory aside, these big explosions happen because they've just never come to terms with it. Or they're at the point where it's like, it's time for us to start having kids if we're going to, and the person's like, what, kids? We were never going to have kids. So yeah, right. So it's right, you've all had this happen. I'm like,
Yeah.
And you get married because of kids.
Sure.
I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you have nothing aligned together except this child.
Right. To me, that's when polyamory can be a really amazing adjunct to a relationship. If you can separate things out. You can be awesome parents, you can finances, we can raise, you know, really be a team and co-parent, we can care about friendship. You might need to make different boxes.
Well, but it's like the commitment piece is the thing that's there in that situation.
Right.
Yeah,
But
and maybe
then-
the rest of it isn't.
Right.
You know, the
But then
commitment.
it's, right, exactly. It's like we don't
Yeah.
need to ask each other to meet each other's romantic and sexual needs anymore. We're not on the same page. But can we be committed to being friendly, to, like, I know many couples who've done this, who like got divorced, lived down the street, the kids just rode their bikes back and forth.
Yeah.
I know one couple who got a duplex and their child could literally go back and forth, so they had their own spaces. But the child knew, these are my parents,
Yeah.
they both love me, whatever dinner I like better, I can go eat that. And with, of course, boundaries of like, hey, I'm not available for you to come over and hang out tonight if, you know, a friend or a lover was gonna come over for a visit. But it is again about not entangling things that are actually separate pieces of our needs getting met. So that can be super helpful because it's I must be your everything. Right. And even just making examples like, oh, you have girlfriends that you talk about with your emotions about, or you can't talk to your partner. You know, like we need other people to bitch about our relationships with. You can't bitch to your partner about the problem you're having with them.
Right.
You know, sometimes you need that initial like, blah, and then you can have a nice conversation with your partner. But anyway, where are we coming back to? I feel like I got
I love the bubbles.
The bubbles are great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to take a picture of it later.
Sure.
Even though I know there's only 4 bubbles.
Okay. And make whatever bubbles make sense. But I guess we could tie this into the relationship escalator. That was actually, I've heard about it a lot and it just makes such intuitive sense. I'd never really researched it, but I researched it and like, oh, this woman who runs the solo polyamory group, Aggie says, who I like see on Facebook all the time, oh, that's her book. Got it. So she wrote a book and
Book's called The Relationship Escalator.
and I think it's called even like stepping off the relationship escalator. So
Yeah, my client told that to me, and I was like, "Oh, I've not heard this term." So I was
Right.
like, that's really cool.
right.
Yeah.
So it's just the idea that culturally we have ingrained in us certain steps, that milestones of a relationship that is embedded in it, and we haven't succeeded at relationships until we meet the goal of married and monogamously coupled living together with a house and a child. Like that is the venerated status.
Even weddings themselves, like, then you cut the cake, and then you put it in the other person's mouth, and it gets messy, and then you take a picture of it, like, there's like some real deep
I know.
scripts.
It's funny because I went to a gay wedding recently, 2 men got married,
Yeah.
and my friend, who was also a gay man, is like, aren't they gonna feed each other cake? He's
Yeah.
not even from the US. He's like, I want cake, why are they feeding each other cake?
Right.
I'm like, oh my god, so fascinating.
Yeah.
And like, it's probably because the chef was like, no, this cake cannot be prepared. Here's in Paris, this cake, it is buttercream, it will not melt. No. I love the French that way, they're just like, not gonna compromise
I
quality.
read an article where a wedding planner said they could tell if the marriage was gonna last based on how respectfully that moment happened.
Oh my god. I always
Yeah.
think that's so interesting too when people like
Yeah.
smash it in each other's
Yeah.
face and you can tell they're super mad.
Right.
And someone's just like, ooh,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
so
That's
interesting.
true, it
Yeah.
talks about care and sensitivity,
Totally.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're both
Communication.
fun and, in that way, and like get into a wedding cake food fight, and both
Right.
of them are into it, great, but.
Yeah. I wanted to smash the cake. Joel did not want to smash the cake, so we did not smash the cake.
Right, but, and you had
Right.
a discussion about it, you didn't just blindside them with smashing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, honey, you can smash it on me. Yeah, so, I mean,
Consent for cakes.
That's
yeah. But it's interesting because the relationship escalator concept is this cultural blueprint we all are raised with, and polyamory challenges it to the core. Because some people's end is, like I'm working with a couple now, they've been together for 11 years. She is married with a primary. her boyfriend's only partner. It's her and the boyfriend that are coming in to see me. They didn't even mention that she was married for 3 sessions because they didn't think it was important. And in a way, yeah.
Wow.
So I finally just asked about it because I'm like, I thought you all were coming in because you're polyamorous. And so and he wrote it on his intake form. I'm like, I'm gonna wait for them to bring it up, and when they didn't, I just brought it up. But it turns out there was a rupture. Well, they've seen each other maybe like weekends or once a week for 11 years, and that's their relationship. They're not gonna get married. She was like doing grad school and just super busy, and she and her partner also didn't live together for most of their marriage. They lived in different continents and were part of it. But there was a moment of, crisis in the relationship, her and her boyfriend's relationship, where he was going to move to where her residency was, and he didn't end up moving. It turned out in his mind for the best, because that fellowship or whatever she was on was so horrible that she ended up leaving. And so he's like, oh, whew, I dodged a bullet there, I didn't move, because she ended up moving back anyway. But for her, it was like, but you said you were going to move, and it was such a terrible time for me, and I needed you so much, and you weren't there. I feel really betrayed that you didn't take our commitment seriously. Mm-hmm. So for her, that commitment was really important. She's committed to this guy, even though they're never going to be married because she's already married. Yeah. So the bubbles. But that to me so I'm looking at the relationship escalator, making contact where you flirt, there's some casual dates, maybe some sex, there's initiation, the romantic courtship, gestures or rituals, the emotional investment, falling in love, almost certainly sex, except for very religiously or socially conservative people. Claiming and defining, the mutual declaration to other people we are a couple, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, expectations and agreements for monogamous and intimate and exclusivity, sexual and emotional exclusivity. So fascinating that the emotional pieces in there. No one else.
What is emotional exclusivity? Does that mean you're not allowed to have any kinds of feelings about anybody else?
No, it's about you can't, that to me, it's the problem his guy is having is you have to be, I am your number one confidant.
Yeah.
You don't trust me if you're going to talk to someone else about your deepest feelings? And no one else can do it, or I'm not enough. If you talk to me and someone else about it, then, you're being emotionally unfaithful.
Well, and I don't know this client's sexual orientation, but if she's straight, is he having the same concerns if she confides in her female friends?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Mm-hmm. Some people do kind of, you can't talk to anyone about us. I'm your private person now. Which in a way is when I did my research, a lot of polyamorous people were like, I am so relieved not to be someone's everything. Mm-hmm. I am so relieved that they have other people to talk to when they're in distress, because I don't always have the bandwidth to help them. Or I'm busy and I don't want to feel like I'm letting someone down by not being there for them when they need me. So it was interesting to hear people just go, oh, what a relief, they've got someone else to talk to. Oh, thank God, I'm so tired, I don't want to have sex. Thank God they have someone else to have sex with. Actually, one of my good friends, we're going to do a radio interview pretty soon up in SLO, where I did a lot of community organizing in our poly community. She was sick for a year with a medical thing, and she's a very sexual person in her house. Her husband had a great sex life, and her boyfriend had a great sex life, and all of a sudden, she didn't want to have sex at all. She's like, please, get some girlfriends, go get some boyfriends, do it, go to your kink parties, please, I don't want to, I don't want to let you down. So for her, it was really a relief that they were in that relationship structure. So the claiming and defining, we're now sexually exclusive, and we're also transitioning to fluid bonded sex, so no more worries about STIs, we can take the condom off, unless of course we're our STI statuses are different, with 1% HIV doesn't, or we're trying to prevent pregnancy. But it's where the monogamy piece comes in. We don't have to worry about condoms for that. Establishment, this is level 4 of the relationship escalator, kind of where we're integrating into each other's lives, we're planning our lives around each other, when we spend time, we might, and then commitment, moving in together, sharing property and finances, getting engaged to be married. Conclusion, I love this, the conclusion is getting married, legally if possible, and having children, which is now no longer mandatory, but, and I love her words, but strongly socially venerated. The relationship is now finalized and its structure is expected to remain static until one partner dies.
That sounds terrible.
I know. Right. Yeah. It's happily ever after.
You've
You're
reached the
married,
end of the
and
story.
now happily ever after, which is why I dislike Disney for that reason, because that's just the beginning of the relationship to me. You're beginning your married journey now, and they're like, oh, happily ever after, no more problems, you're just living in bliss.
Maybe have seen to the woods. They talk about after.
I guess did that come to town recently?
It's coming.
Yes, I'm like,
Yeah.
Jenny's gonna go to that.
Yeah, we're actually all going.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
And then legacy is the final, buying a home, having kids. Some couples may not feel or be perceived as fully valid until they hit these additional benchmarks post-marriage. But they're often deemed less crucial to the escalator experience than would have been the case a few decades ago. Having kids in a house.
Right, and then what?
You die.
That's it.
When you die.
You die.
That's legacy.
You're done.
You just twiddle your thumbs until you.
Yeah.
You fulfilled
Until
your
you
potential
die.
as a human. That's
Right. Right. Right.
This is when you've been in a relationship, it's not what's evolving.
Right.
Decompose.
Right. But I mean, to me, there's something about a fixed mindset in that model.
Yeah.
And people who are coming to therapy are in a growth mindset often. They're exploring themselves, they're willing to evolve as people and grow and change. And inevitably, when growth and change individually happens, the relationship has to keep up.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting phenomena in polyamory where it seems people are aware. They have to be aware of this. They have to constantly check in with their partners, and this is how things are changing for me, and this is how my relationships are evolving, and there's a constant dialogue about this change. Whereas I think in a monogamous relationship, you can get kind of lazy about it. You don't really have to talk about how I'm evolving, because the we is just expected to be there. But the we is affected. The birth of a child, a promotion at work, dissatisfaction with your career and wanting to change your career, all of these things deeply impact relationships, and it's often until the one person has really figured out, okay, this is how I want to change, and then springs it on the other person.
Right, I guess that's my question around sort of if one person is stepping into this growth mindset and the other person's sort of in this fixed mindset. I guess that's where I've seen the most struggle, because my clients tend to be the ones who have initiated polyamory, the two main clients I have around this. And sort of, one of them, her partner has agreed to it, but then sort of when the reality of those experiences show up, he gets really upset, right? Sort of those moments of like, oh, this is okay until you come home late and that impacts me. And sort of like then that moment needs to be really negotiated. It's like from now on, okay, you can have this partner, but you cannot come home late. But then the person seeing the partner goes, well, now I have these restrictions and that doesn't make it as enjoyable. It just suddenly, like these little things become really, I mean, they're not little.
Right, no.
But just, I think especially that idea of like, my partner said yes, and now they're saying no a lot, or that, it's just so tricky.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, this is the constant negotiation of creating boundaries around the couple to have the relationship feel safe and continue working without restricting individual freedom for the person who's polyamorous, and without totally discounting that there is another person with their own feelings and needs involved there. And this evolves over time because the other piece is the rules are often created by the non-polyamorous person's insecurity, jealousy, fear. So it's fear-based, it's not love-based. And so the solution often is, how do we strengthen the couple relationship and bring love and commitment and trust, strengthen those things, rather than put a restriction on how this person is dealing with other people. So yes, we need boundaries and expectations. Those can over time start to fade away a bit as the person realizes, oh, they're not gonna leave me. I mean, that is the fear. You're gonna leave me. You're gonna find someone else and replace me. But that's how monogamy works. That's serial monogamy. You know, and this is the other thing to constantly catch your clients doing is, I think it's a monogamous mindset. Even polyamorous people, like, oh man, the sex is so much better with this new person and my partner. Does this mean that I should just be with them? It's like, okay, pull out the boxes. These are different boxes. What is working in your relationship? If you need to work on your sex life with your primary partner, let's do that. Let's not just ignore it because this sex is so good, or think you have to throw away the whole relationship because one aspect isn't working, right? Yeah.
I mean, just you explaining that, sort of the fear of someone leaving, so you're gonna leave me, actually, if I was fully being monogamous, I would leave you and go to that other relationship,
Right.
versus polyamorous is investing in the fact I wanna keep you and expand this dynamic.
Right.
Like, that's so like, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so helpful.
Right.
Can you talk about how new relationship energy influences that?
Yes.
Right.
And this is where awareness of paradigms is really important and helping. So polyamorous paradigm, I wish I would have brought my little list. There's like a side-by-side comparison. So monogamy says if you feel feelings for someone else and you don't feel them for your old partner, they go, the new person's in. Whereas polyamory says you feel feelings for a new person, great. Expand your capacity to love, expand your social bubble, make sure your partner still feels connected, but go ahead and explore this. It's abundance. What happens, I think in monogamy, what happens is there's a concept called new relationship energy. I'm sure you've all felt it when you meet someone new and you're just like, this is the one. This is the perfect person who's gonna meet all my needs. I'm speaking from a monogamous mindset now. You feel amazing, you're walking on air, all those endorphins and oxytocin, they're just like, whoa! It's that honeymoon phase of any relationship that's just so intoxicating. And if you've also been in a long-term relationship, you know that rush of chemicals calms down once you become more established, the commitment, the trust, the love has really started to flow. There's a different kind of feeling, deeper and like quieter. And this can be so intoxicating. It can be addicting. So, I mean, that's another thing to kind of look out for. But that addicting feeling, I just can't get enough of this new person. And the poor partner at home is like, yeah, I get that you like them, but we have responsibilities together. Like, I'm still a person and need some attention here. So if they can, in some sense hold it lightly and go, okay, this is just NRE, it's gonna pass, but let me not let them act like an asshole. Because some people really do get caught up in that and act like assholes. And this is part of the poly-adolescence piece. Adolescents are assholes. I love them, but it's a very tumultuous time. They're self-focused, they're self-centered, they're really exploring the identity pieces. I just want to try everything all the time. And they don't even realize how it's impacting the other people in their life. Yeah. And if you try and tell them, they just rebel harder. So, but you can still go ahead and tell them because it does seep in, kind of. And hopefully an adult with NRE will have a little more ability to self-regulate and hear, hey, when you spend every night of the week, or all we talk about is your new partner, that makes me feel like shit, So this is one of those clinical boundary setting things that's interesting in polyamory because how much other relationship stuff do you share with your primary partner if you have a primary? Some people want to hear it. Give me all the juicy details of your date. Woo! And that turns them on. That's sexy and fun. Other people are like, I'm really struggling with this. It's enough for me to know you're on a date with someone and that you're coming home at a certain time. I don't want to know. The interesting thing is very often our imaginations are way worse than reality. Way worse. We have this vision of like, oh my God, this new person they're seeing, because they're describing it, they're just this goddess who's perfect, and how can I ever compare? And then you meet them, you're like, oh, that's just a person. You know, it's not some movie star, it's a person. So that can actually sometimes help alleviate fears. Not that you have to be besties, but just to know, like, oh. I know I kind of went off on a tangent again. Bringing it back to the.
I mean, all of this feels.
Yeah, all of this feels
Yeah.
super helpful.
Yeah. So again, it's this balance between everyone's needs and what's my own emotion to regulate, and when are you crossing a line of an agreement? Like we're renegotiating the respect boundaries. In monogamy, and really if you dig deep, every monogamous couple has different respect boundaries too. Some people think it's cheating if you're like talking to an ex. Some people are like, whatever, talk to them, your friends, fine. Some people think it's cheating if you watch porn on your own without them. You know, every couple needs to define that, but very often people assume we have the same definition of cheating, and then something happens and then you find out, oh, you do not have the same definition of cheating. And it's never discussed until a conflict happens. In polyamory, it gets discussed. People have to be very, very explicit about what do I want, what do I need, what are the boundaries, what do you want, what do you need, how do we figure this out together? So it's a collaborative process. And of course you can't anticipate everything. There's this phase of people in early poly relationships where you just don't know yet. It's kind of like when you're first dating as an adolescent, you just don't know the rules yet, you don't know how to negotiate all the feelings. And so it's very much like that in polyamory. So best laid plans, best laid agreements. Some situation's gonna come up, you're like, wow, we never saw that one coming. So if couples can approach it with a bit of levity, like, whew, another fucking growth experience, okay, here we go. You know, where they can be a team, and look at it as a team effort, rather than you're trying to leave me, you're trying to find your new person and leave me behind.
So can you speak to jealousy then? Because I think that's a thing that, is a big issue, and I think it has to deal a lot with regulation, but sort of if one person is experiencing that and the other one isn't, sort of to be like, cool, go self-regulate. That's not a helpful way of dealing with that. So it's like, how do you support that?
And isn't that guilt around jealousy? Because I think a lot of people feel like they're supposed to be experiencing compersion and they get really like shame-filled when they find what they're actually feeling jealous.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and interestingly, I found even people who want to be polyamorous and both are polyamorous, jealousy still comes up. So again, this is that walking the middle path between what is yours to regulate and what is mine to help you with. When do you need reassurance, and when can I give that to you, and when is your jealousy controlling me? When is your insecurity controlling me? So there's different types of jealousy, where there's that just deep, primal, murderous, this other person is trying to take you away, that is mine. You know, like, rings are coming off.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's that kind of primal, like, fear of losing someone that can really, violent emotions can come up. There's the insecurity flavor of it, the why aren't I enough? You're gonna leave me because I'm not enough and this other person has more than me, so there's that comparison, that kind of jealousy. There's also the envy jealousy. I want what this person has, you know, and I feel bad about myself that I don't have it, or I don't think it's possible for me to get it. So depending on what kind of jealousy it is, there's you can approach it differently. And so the partner who's polyamorous and going off with their person, and this person's getting jealous. Okay, this is just so classic. It's date night. The other person has not adequately planned what to do on date night. They haven't made a friend or whatever they need to do to take care of themselves. They're sitting at home like feeling real shitty about themselves. So it might be that this person needs to give them some reassurance. Hey, I'm at the date, I'm having a fun time, thinking of you, hope you're having a good evening. Maybe it's a text. Maybe it is I know I said I was gonna be home at midnight, but we got to talking and lost track of time, I'm gonna be home around 12:30. You know, so the person knows they're thinking about me. Even if we're not together, they're taking my needs into consideration. Do people have 1 o'clock clients?
Yeah.
Yeah. How much longer do we have?
2 to 3 minutes. I know your client is always early, so you tend to set the clock for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it's a tricky line because the jealousy can be used to guilt trip, coerce, and then resentment starts to build up, and then it's like you and your jealousy. And oftentimes that's when people are coming in. So to help them get back to, okay, you're having some feelings of insecurity, what's that about? Let's work on that. And your partner's having some feelings of insecurity, that's totally valid. How can you validate the feelings of insecurity without taking responsibility for it? But taking responsibility for the fact that the activity you are engaging in is eliciting that, and therefore you need to show some care and concern and compassion and provide some reassurance. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of these things that makes sense in theory, but actually having people engage in that seems really hard.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it just
Right.
seems complex.
Right, and that's where you might just
Emotionally.
give them really
Yeah.
practical scripts.
Yeah.
You know, like, you need to say, not, you better be home at midnight, but wow, I'm feeling really, my insecurities are really coming up right now, my not enoughness, my worry that you're gonna leave is really up right now. And this person can go, rather than be like, fuck you, I'm gonna do what I want, can be, oh man, I'm so sorry you're feeling insecure, you know I love you, big hug, I'm gonna be back at midnight, if anything happens, I'll text you midway through, let you know how I'm doing, you know.
That feels so wonderfully boundary to me, because in that moment it isn't like, okay, I'm gonna cancel my plans and stay with you. It's not sort of indulging that insecurity, it's honoring it, it's naming it and respecting it,
Right.
but not doing sort of weird codependent thing where you kind of throw everything out just to make them okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that feels helpful.
Yeah, it's that both and.
So I hear you and I will support you in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. That's a good note to end on. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Sarah.
Yeah, you're
Really
welcome. Thank you.
appreciate it.
I mean, thanks for giving me a forum to talk about my very favorite.